Hello, we are back. Welcome back, Africa Week family, old family members, new family members. Yeah. We are here with some amazing panelists from around the world, and we're here to talk about who are the authors of our stories. We're here to talk about how can we own our own narrative and how we can have ownership over our experiences and how we're communicating them. I'm going to briefly introduce our panelists, give a little introduction to the subject, and then we'll let everybody sort of tell us what they're into, what their work is, what's alive in them right now. So we have Malele joining us from South Africa. Hello, Mo.
Hello.
We have Rich joining us from right here in Portland, where I am. Hello, Rich.
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
We have Cheick Hamala Diabate joining us from DC. Hello. And Cheick. Hi, Cheick. We have Dimah also joining us from DC. Hello. And we have Beto Torrens joining us, of course, from Puerto Rico. Hello, everybody.
Hello. How are you?
So I just wanted to give you a brief of why I felt this is important for Bámbula, Remember for Revolution. And that is, as we talked about before, if you missed in the introduction, whatever is going on inside us is what the world needs right now. We're born specifically on purpose in this time. And what's going on inside us is the revolution. The revolution happens inside. And in order for us to create the revolutions that happen out there, we do have to look within. And one of the best ways we can do that, we can heal ourselves, communicate ourselves, be effective in this world, is to start with our own stories. You know, you might have heard the term story medicine, story medicine before. We all have that. We all have a journey that we can communicate that will not only help us, but other people. And often we see when regimes take over, or when there's controlling forces, or there's opposition to us being who we really are, our stories get taken and they get changed. Our histories get changed. Our stories put us, especially when we're talking about Black people, especially when we're talking about Indigenous people, especially when we're talking about people with melanin in our skin, our stories get changed changed in a way that tries to keep us down, keep us in control, right? And so this is why when we were talking about revolution, why we wanted to start talking about having this panel about being the authors of our own stories and owning that, and how do we communicate that to help others. So I'm going to start with Cheick. Hello, tell us about yourself. Tell us what's alive in you about this subject, and welcome again.
Me, right? Cheick Diabate.
Hello.
I am very, very happy to be here with you guys today. I am a griot from Mali, West Africa.
Sure. And please tell us, Cheick, what is a griot? Because some of us don't know. Uh-oh. We can't see you or hear you. Something happened. Let's see if he's... No.
He'll be back. He'll be back.
I am so sorry, my people. So you see, very, very busy. Cheick Diabate, the griot today is the Tabaski, and I know my community keep call. They need me for a lot of things, but actually I am happy. I am a griot. Griot is a consolateur, griot is a historian, griot is an advisor, and griot is a musician, singer. So if I'm here today with you guys, this program is very important, because when I hear from you, to know where you go, you gotta know where you come from. It's very important to trust yourself. That's because when my friend Dimah told me about Alexandra and all of you, I would say very happy for me to be here today to come to greet and say hello. And I am happy. Thank you. Hello?
Thank you. Thank you, Cheick.
Hello?
How's it going? I'm gonna Hi, Cheick, can you hear me?
Hello?
Okay, he's on the phone, I think.
Did you hear what I said?
Yes, I did. Can you hear me, Cheick?
I am so sorry because very busy today. People keep calling me and they interrupt my call, but I'm glad, happy, okay?
Cheick, tell me, you said you're a griot. How does that translate into the music? Because you play music worldwide. What are the important stories that you've been sharing in your music, especially recently?
The griot play music, the background, our family, we are born in griot, and also when we play, somebody say the history. That's because the music go with the history for our culture and also for our family. Like my family, 800 years. My family keep this history in Africa. Anything go, anything go in Mali. No griot. The griot, even the president, anything they have to do, they pass from the griot to tell them what's going on and also to be careful for your life. Our government trusts more the griot more than anyone else, and the griot is a respectful person, and the griot tell you to do this, to do this, to do this. That's what we do with the music.
So you're saying that you're the history keepers.
Yes.
The history, you know the lessons of all those that came before you for hundreds of years within
800, yeah.
within your family and the communities.
Yes.
And so the people around you, including high positions like government positions, will come to you to ensure that the decisions they're making now are aligned.
Yeah, that's, I told you here, I'm in Washington, D.C., working with my embassy. Anything, if my president come to America, anybody, you need to see the griot, Cheick Hamala. And also, I told them about the culture. I tell them how I live here. Because so a lot of people keep asking how the griot important people from West Africa, Mali, leave Mali to come to live in America. I tell them life is a several morning. So I am here very happy because I keep going the same tradition like I do in Mali. I told people do this to be careful to your life, and that's my job here. Very, very important and very serious, very strong, and all of these people live in Washington D.C. area from West Africa. You tell me your last name, like in Mali. I told you who you are come from, and what you gotta do to your life, and something like that.
Okay. So you're talking about how these stories are helping people navigate, for their life.
Because the history is important. Like I already told people here, to know where you go, you gotta know where you come from, and the history. All our family in Mali, we have a thousand family name, but you tell me your last name, I tell you from your ancestor to you, like our empire. Sunjata Keita. When I say Keita, Narimu Manenga Jakuma Kabala Simbo Tuntan Jontan or Kalafajonani Subajata Wali. I told you from your ancestor to you, and to be careful to your life, trust yourself, and don't be bad. All the time, try to be strong, like you say right now. The revolution is to be strong and to trust yourself.
Yes. To be strong and to trust yourself.
Yes.
Did you hear that, family out there? Let us know in the comments. Did you hear that? To be strong and to trust yourself. Yes.
Yeah. you know, important. The griot, even the griot talk to you. You don't care about the griot tell you, give you power, a lot of power. When we speak to anybody, you never be scared to your life. Yeah.
Uh-huh. What advice would you have for, here in the United States, we don't have that tradition. And so what would you say, and maybe it doesn't exist in other, I'm sure we're not the only place it doesn't exist, but I know for sure it does not exist here. And so what is your advice to those who don't have that tradition, who don't have someone they can go to that can learn from the stories of their ancestors?
Here, before I came to America, they have a lot of books about the griot, our family. And when I came here, I keep working with a lot of people from here. Even they call me the griot of the Congress, U.S. Congress, the senator, because I always going over there. If anything they have, they invite me special, because to have a one griot is like you have a 1,000, 1 million person. You know what I mean? So, and I keep this tradition, and I tell people a lot about what the culture going to us before long time before today.
Thank you, Cheick. I honestly didn't know the depth of what a griot was. I didn't totally understand. So I really appreciate that. And I know that a lot of people are watching, or their minds are blown right now. I'm seeing in the comments, people are saying peace and blessings. Someone's saying loud and clear. So we can be heard. You're being heard loud and clear. For those of you who are watching at home, let us know in the comments. This is interactive. Please say hello. Say hello to our panelists, and you may ask questions.
Thank you.
Cheick, is there anything else you want to share? Because I know you have to go early today.
Yeah, I have to, because today is the Tabaski, the holiday, big holiday for the Muslim. And here, my community from here, the ambassador, they keep call everybody want me to greet people. First, I like to thank all of you and a blessing for you guys. And so after today, I think you told me we have some program in September. I don't know.
Oh yes, we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk.
Anytime I like to play bring my whole band play for you guys, and big blessing. And I'm ready anytime if you need me, anything we can do together. I am very, very proud of you guys. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you so much, Cheick. Thank you for being here. Bless you. Bless you.
Thank you very, very much. God bless. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Now I'm gonna greet those people and get back to you a couple of minutes.
Bye-bye.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. God bless.
Bye-bye.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Bless you. Bless you.
Thank you very, very much. God bless. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay. Now.
All right. Okay. Wow. Everybody at home, let us know. How are you receiving this? Say hello. Tell us where you're from. Okay. Who are the authors of our stories? Mo. Hello. Hello, Mo from South Africa.
What up?
How's it going?
Hello.
I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody else because there's some odd sounds coming in from the background. Hello, how are you? What's alive in you? Who are the authors of our stories? Tell us more about yourself and what's alive for you and what we're talking about today.
Yeah, a lot of things. So Malele is a doer of many things and a wearer of many hats. I kind of live a life that is a very purposeful and passion-filled, and I take on many different projects, but things that inspire me, that challenge me, that grow me, and also grow and develop the communities around me. So I am a full-time entrepreneur, which basically means I run and start businesses for a living. I've got a marketing agency for a tech company, a tech startup, because I'm really passionate about technology and how it can change the lives of ordinary and marginalized communities. So that kind of stuff keeps me busy. I do a lot of work in the youth development space in South Africa, particularly with your university-aged students. in the youth development, student development, graduate attributes, motivational and inspirational content, and that kind of stuff. I'm a freelance writer, so I use my passion for the written art form to create content for various projects that I work on. That kind of like really keeps me busy. So that's the stuff that keeps me the most busy. When I'm not in the office and I'm not at work and not doing that, I'm in studio. I'm writing. I have many so pens and pads everywhere. Like I don't go anywhere without a pen and a pad because I'm constantly like writing material and creating on the spot. I've got voice recorders and whatnot. There's always something going on in my head, and I jot down a lot of the stuff that I think about and a lot of the stuff that I go through. So writing and you know, like the written art form has always been something that I've been very passionate about since I was a youngin. So I'm a poet and spoken word artist. Recently released my album in April. So I recently released a poetry album titled My Country Needs Me, a project that took me 2 years to work on. And I was just really stoked and excited to get it out, despite the fact that it was released in the middle of the chaos that is COVID-19, which made for an interesting experience as a poet and an independent artist, releasing an album at a time when you don't actually have the opportunity to do live gigs. So it was quite interesting actually having to engage with that. But I'm happy to say that it's doing quite well actually, and that it's actually kind of traveled the world. So I'm really excited about that. I'm currently working on a new project right now.
Mo, what's the name of your album? I think we posted it, but just so people can have it in their heads, what's the name of your album?
So the album is called My Country Needs Me. And it actually means exactly that. My Country Needs Me, which is an album that was written in a space where I was kind of looking at the country, the world, the continent. I'm looking at my community, and I was just thinking about in the context of the bigger picture and all the things that are going wrong in the world and all the things that, you know, one could feel very pitiful about and kind of feel very woe is me. Yes. What are the things that I can do as an individual to have a big impact and to move my country, my community, and my people forward? And that's sort of the spirit of the album. You know, it's about those little things. And what I always say to people is when you attack a problem and you're thinking about what you as an individual can do on a macro level, you can quite very quickly get intimidated by how big the problem is. Whether you're talking about racial issues, or you're talking about delivery, or you're talking about the economy, whatever it is that you're talking about, when you think about how big the beast is, it can actually feel very overwhelming.
Yes.
But when you take a step back, but then when you take a step back and you think about the fact that I'm an individual who has autonomy, I'm an individual who lives in a community and in a society, and I impact and influence people on a daily basis. So how can I use that impact and that influence that I have to move this country forward ever so slightly? So when you think about change on a micro level, you can actually then eventually add all that stuff up to having a macro impact. And the idea of the album, when I titled My Country Needs Me, is that if everybody in the world, but in the country, approach their life, approach the community that they live in with the spirit of what are the little things that I can do on a daily basis, yes. Whether it's the way I raise my children, whether it's the way I treat my colleagues and my employees, whether it's the way I run my business, whether it's the way I give back to the community, whether it's the way I recycle my waste, but the little things, if everybody did that, imagine the macro impact that we could have in changing the world. If everybody just did a little bit every day. And that's the spirit of the album, My Country Needs Me. It's about everybody doing that. I get very passionate. I can get really carried away when I talk about it.
I know this is amazing. And I'm actually going to, since there's only 3 of us here, I'm actually going to open this up if you all want to converse about this a little bit. Because I'll tell you, Beto and I were talking about exactly this. What yes. You're talking about, just to, like it's been in conversations, and Rich also does work here in Portland, in a certain area in Portland. And Rich, you can talk about this a little more. That's where we're talking about community impacts. And so I love what you're saying. I love you made a whole album around this. My Country Needs Me, and you know, we hear about things like ripple effect, right? Like. Yeah. like one drop of the water, how it affects the pond, and how different that looks. You know, you can overflow a pond if everybody's, you know.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah.
No.
So that's the thing.
That's beautiful. So Mo, my question then is, okay, so you're now, some of us understand, we have people coming from everywhere, and so can you tell us just a little bit about how stories are suppressed, how stories might be suppressed where you are in Johannesburg? You're in Johannesburg, right?
Sorry?
You're in Johannesburg, right?
Yeah, yes. I'm in Johannesburg. So I think this issue of stories being suppressed is actually it's an interesting one, and it's a journey that I myself kind of I traveled when I was working on this album. And I think in one of the emails that you sent, you had alluded to this fact of what are the things that kind of stop people from telling their stories or owning their stories. And I think one of the first things is you have to accept that the story does exist and that is the story. Like you cannot get to a point where you are ashamed of the story, because when you come from a base where you are ashamed of the narrative, you'll never want to tell that narrative. And I think one of the most important things that I see a lot, and it's also like feedback that I get from a lot of people about how inspirational they find the album, about how naked and honest and true it is, and some of the topics that I cover and some of the things that I speak about, even some things that are very personal and real to myself. You know, and the one thing that I always tell people is that in order for you to own the narrative, you firstly got to accept that and the story matters. The version of events matters. That it's worth being told. It is worth it being heard. It is worth being put out there. It's worth being funded if that's what needs to happen. But people have to get to a point where they are willing to fight for the platforms to tell their stories. You're willing to create those platforms if nobody else wants to give you a platform to tell your story. But by all means, the revolution must be televised.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. By all means, the revolution.
The revolution must be televised. By all means, even if we have to create our own channels, we're gonna tell the story. We're gonna tell the revolution. I think you're seeing more and more of that happen nowadays, with more and more, you know, independent stories, like independent artists and independent script writers, independent production companies, more collaborative efforts between the creative community, people coming together to tell a story. You're seeing that slowly but surely start to happen and, like, you know, gain traction. And I believe that's the right way for it to be happening. I believe I believe we're on the right path. The more independence we can have in storytelling, the better, because it keeps everybody involved honest. And it becomes about telling the story as accurate and as truthful as possible, and not about box office revenue, you know.
Yes.
No offense to box office revenue, I'm just saying.
No, I get it. It's, you know, I think that's something that storytellers, artists, that this is a challenge, and not just in the creative industries, but in many industries is like how can we as artists, I think it's important for us to live well, and by living well I mean having the freedom to you know, having our resources and being able to travel when we need to travel, and take care of our land and our families the way we want to, and I think that the story that we get told a lot is you got to make cash money to do that, and you have to do a certain way, and you have to sell yourself a certain way. And so how do we stay honest in what it is that we're communicating as storytellers, as artists, as whatever it is that we're creating, and also staying in integrity and staying honest with what it is that we're communicating? That's a question I'm always asking myself as a teacher myself. So I'm glad that you brought that up, Mo. Thank you.
Yeah, I think what you touched on and what you just said is amazing. About honesty. as musicians, as artists, as writers, actors, all kinds of arts, you have to be honest. If you are not honest, your audience will see that. I mean, when you're not honest with your music, when you're trying to do something that is not true to yourself, your audience will notice that, and you will not connect. So honesty is definitely the only way to really connect to other people and to ancestors. Honesty is a must. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah, thank you. We're going to continue this dialogue with Mo, and I want to take a moment to say hello, Rich Hunter.
Hi, how you doing?
Oh, how's it going? Welcome. Thank you for
I'm well.
so early in the morning.
Oh, bright and early, out the bed, making it happen. It's good. We're here.
Yes. And I also want to say, and I want everybody to take notice of this. Rich also introduced me to someone else who is now going to be presenting or being interviewed tomorrow in Africa Week 2020. That's how it works here. We bring our friends.
Yeah.
Bring our friends and grow. Everyone is invited to be a participant in Africa Week. Just stay in touch with us. All right. So, Rich, tell us a little more about yourself. What's life for you right now, the work you're doing, and how you're connecting to what we're talking about with being the authors of our stories.
Yes. My name is Rich Hunter. I am a resident and local artist here in Portland, Oregon, born and raised here. I've been doing music, singer, songwriter my whole life. I've also came up in the streets. So a big part of my story is kind of a story of redemption, coming up in the streets and getting in some trouble earlier on and losing some freedoms and different things like that. And then being able to actually get out of that. And now I'm working in the community and work with at-risk youth and helping them to stay out of gangs and whatnot. So it's been a real good journey being able to just share my experience with them and have them be able to look to me as a mentor and a role model and say, okay, this guy was able to come out of this situation and show us a better way. And so my music has been able to do the same thing as well. And through the music and through just my life story, I believe that I've been able to really tell my story. Once again, a story I believe is a story of redemption, a story of just resilience. And I think a lot of times our stories are muted a lot of times just because of the world we live in. Everything is go, glitz, glamour, gold. And we kind of forget about the little people or just the everyday person and the struggles that we go through. And so it's important for us all to have a voice and for us all to feel important in a world that doesn't necessarily give us that platform. So I've produced and created about 6 albums, a couple under Risky Star, and then a couple under my real name, which is Rich Hunter. And a little context behind that, when I was younger, I was quite the hothead, so my buddies would call me Risky. And I called it this Risky Rich, double R Star, and I was kind of long, so I ended up going to Risky Star. And then as I got older, I realized that I was coming into this place as a father. I have 3 kids, 3 boys, 3 lovely boys, and you kind of just you grow into this new wisdom and growth. And so I was like, I want to go to my real name, Rich Hunter, and kind of share my experience with that. And the last album that I put out was an album called Third Eye Inspiration, and that just kind of touches on everything from family, touches on the world we live in today, the hate that's going on, the bigotry, racism, etc. And then just really how we treat one another. I'm a big advocate of the golden rule and treating each other with love and respect. However cliche that sounds, just really living by that and having that be an example. It's kind of like the drop that you were talking about before, and being able, if we all just kind of take the time to water the people around us and nourish them with our kindness, I think that we can kind of change the world in that aspect. This is a small start that we can do, something that's very small that we can really impact a lot of people. So, but yeah, that's the work that I'm doing right now. I'm loving who I am and owning who I am. I wouldn't be here today if I didn't go through the things that I went through in the past. I wouldn't be able to tell and navigate my story if I didn't go through the things I went through in the past. So I feel blessed and I feel grateful to be alive here today. We're living in a world right now, especially where I'm from. There's a huge gang war going on right now. So
please talk about that.
Yeah, there's a huge gang war going on right now. There's been about 44 homicides within the last month.
Rich, let me just give just a tiny bit of context, because this is actually this is really important. So a lot of people have been seeing the videos of the clashes that are going on in Portland, Oregon right now, and you can look those things up a little later. We've had something that our Sudanese, our Nubian friends have been looking at videos of the feds and the unmarked vehicles and the unmarked cars coming into Portland, taking people off the streets at some of the protests, and going, oh my God, that looks like what was happening in Sudan, which just like, it's like, what is happening here? And this is in Portland, Oregon, which everybody, the United States perception of Portland, Oregon is that it's this sort of like utopia and fun place, and it's also a very white Caucasian place, but there's also communities of people with melanin in their skin that live here that are you don't even know about. I didn't even know about some of the stuff that was going on as a result of this unrest, as a result of the revolution that's going on here, and it's not that far away from where I live. So the stuff that Rich is talking about right now is, I'm just giving you a little context of sort of like what's going on in Portland, and how eyes are on Portland right now, how this relates to what we're seeing in other places. So sorry, go ahead, Rich.
No, yeah, that's absolutely correct. I think that, on one side you're seeing these the protests and the revolutionary side of things, and then on the other side of it, because the streets kind of know right now that there's a almost a freedom to kind of wild west type of thing. They're kind of going out there and feeling like they don't really have anyone to answer to in regards to that, and so it's a very tragic situation right now. But lives are being lost, and right now we're just on the ground as Black men in Portland, really just trying to come together and trying to talk to our youth and give them a better way. I think one of the biggest things that I'm trying to do personally is trying to start on the prevention side of it and really helping kids get jobs, help them, because you can't really try to get youth off of the streets without giving them an alternative. And one of the alternatives to me is, helping them out with internships and jobs and programs, things of that nature, and being able to, if they're interested in music, if they're interested in science, whatever it may be, trying to get them into vocational programs, whatever that may be, to help them get them to that next level. So preventative things, I think, are very key. That's one of the reasons why I'm here right now, is because as a youngster, I had mentors and I had people who would say, "Hey, man, what are you interested in? How can I help you achieve where you want to get to?" And they helped put me on a path to receive that. So, when you're about your day, or later on when you have a chance to, or if you're at home right now, just send out good energy for the youth out in Portland who are going to war right now, and the young Black men, young black and brown men who are losing their lives right now out there in this war, and yeah. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate you having me on here right now.
Rich, you're saying that it's a war, and I wonder, you talk to these kids? Do you mind sharing a story? Obviously, without giving away specific details to give away a person's identity, but what are the stories that you're hearing? Because this is something that Dimah and I actually talked about in Africa after Africa Week, and we did in May, which is we don't have what we would like to have is representation of people who are sort of street warring, who are sort of clashing with, have a system that they're living in that's sort of like the system that doesn't really get a voice until it's a statistic, So
Yeah. Well, it's all very systematic in itself. I mean, the whole reason why gangs exist, the whole reason why the streets have this thing is because of poverty. It's because of the access not being really given to us over time, and so young men have felt like they've had to make their own way, and so that's really where the struggle comes from. And then when you feel like you have a lot of competition and you're trying to feed your mouths out there or whatnot, and you feel like the next person, you feel like you got to knock them off. I guess that's the American way. We've been taught that it's colonialism, and it's taught us to hate each other. So one of the things that we need to really get back to is just the love, and instill that love and the love for one another. When we see each other as brothers, we see our brothers and sisters and not our enemies. But yeah, I don't know if I can really say a story per se of what the youth or one youth is going through, but what I will say is just that once again, it does come from a very systemic a systemic supremacy that's been happening throughout years and years and years of here in America, and what we're seeing is a byproduct of what we've been taught through through television, what we've been taught through history books, and so right now it's the time to kind of unlearn all of that, the visual hate and thing that we've seen, and to really start implementing the love for one another again. So I hope I answered that.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you are changing a narrative that these kids are given. If the narrative that they're given, whether it comes from gangs that they're in or the communities they're in, is you got to knock each other off and you got to hate each other, whatever it is. I think it's a really noble and also very tremendous undertaking to be the person who comes in and says, actually, no, love. Like that's for some people, I think that's a big jump. If you don't have somebody coming in with that story, then that's a big jump, especially if you're operating in like desperation, especially if you're like in survival mode.
Absolutely. And I think one of the other things is I've been kind of, as young Black men, we tend to not really take care of like self-care and therapy and things of that nature. So I've been really trying to talk to them about the importance of therapy and things of that nature, because we go through so much PTSD from all the things that we've seen and all the trauma that we've seen in the streets, and sometimes it tends to go unchecked, and so that bleeds over into our relationships and our lives and our families and things of that nature. And so I'm really trying to share with them the importance of therapy and self-care and meditation and things of that nature, so that they can really vibrate on a higher level. And that changes things in itself, just your output, how you look at life, how you see yourself, how you're able to navigate your own feelings. When you get triggered from certain things, you're able to recognize what those triggers are, and be able to keep those emotions in check. So yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing all of this. This is I just want to really amplify this story of self-care, because if you look at the generations like 60, like my dad's generation, right? So like in the people who are in their like 60s and 70s, the idea of taking care of yourself, first of all, self-care is just like it's just like not a generally here in the United States anyways, it's just not really a big consideration. And the idea of like therapy or seeing a counselor is like taboo. It's actually taboo. And that generationally then gets passed down. There are still people who are in their 20s and 30s that 3, 4, 5 generations down that are just like some kind of way getting that self-care. The story is you're weak, you're not masculine. If you do that, you're, to be made fun of, and then all the derogatory words come with that. And so to change the narrative that way is not only necessary and vital, but I imagine there's I can hear that, you have some challenges with that, but I'm glad that you're dedicated to that work. Thank you.
Absolutely. Each one teach one.
Each one.
Yes. True that.
Yes. And I want to remind everybody who's watching right now, please put your questions and comments in the comment bar. We're going to continue the conversation. Actually, Dimah, soon I think it's going to FaceTime me and then I'll share the screen. We are working around the tech gremlins. So go ahead, family, please put your questions and your comments inside the comments box there, and we'll ask those. Beto Torrens.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi.
So hello.
It's beautiful because everything we talk about. Alexandra and I talk pretty much daily. We're always talking about these things, and both of you have touched on subjects that we talk daily. The each one teach one thing you just said is so true, and it's something that we're always talking about because like I said, what you do, what you did there, one hand watches the other one and both watch the face. So knowledge is spread. Nobody has everything, all the knowledge. It has to be spread, and that way we all. That's what connection is about, and that's what uplifting is about when we connect like that. So, man, I'm proud to meet you. People that actually give from themselves to get a benefit of the future generations. You got me, man.
Thank you, brother.
Yes.
Likewise.
Yes. That is very, very important. That is definitely what the Bámbula spirit is all about. It's about reaching to the deep depths of your soul and sharing that information. So, before when Cheick was telling about him being a griot and what griot means, I think you all are griots as well, because you are telling stories and you are connecting with the past, the present, and the future, and that is what it is all about. I think like the whole hip hop movement. I don't know if that's the music that you do, but I think that has a deep connection to the griot because it is that storytelling. It is that uplifting of the people. It is the telling of the true stories of of the ghettos, the true stories of the streets, the true stories of what people live daily in the most marginal areas of the world. So yeah, I think that tradition is a definite African tradition in the sense of that oral tradition that we talked about that before. A lot of our stories as African people around the world aren't written in books. What's written in books is a view from a perspective that is not ours, really. So it's up to us to actually reach deep and tell all these stories. It's really a responsibility, and it's a big responsibility.
Yeah.
That's why honesty, like the sister Mo said, has to be on the forefront of this. of this information. So thank you for doing what you do, both of you. Yeah. We all appreciate it deeply, for sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Thank you guys for
Hey,
what you guys are doing.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
here in Puerto Rico, that tradition of storytelling, it's alive as well in different forms, and what you're telling about your situation over there in Portland is a mirror to what we live here in Puerto Rico as well, with with gangs and with uh, you know the youth crime with no reason at all, and the only reason that happens is because, like you said, um, because they don't have anywhere else to go.
Yeah.
And that's all they know. At the same breath, I gotta talk about how the fight against apartheid in the last century in South America really inspired us in Puerto Rico to go out and march and go out and sing and ask for our freedom and definitely our justice. So it's amazing to link up with both of you in this sense. Um, so yeah, again, thank you. I just want to hear more of what you have to say, because I do speak a lot and I'll be here all day speaking like crazy.
It's so wonderful to be on here with you. I've been loving to hear the stories, and just Mo and Beto, you guys, you guys are. I've never been to Africa. I'd love to go someday. So, and I'd love to go to Puerto Rico as well. So when I go, I hope to look you up and come hang with you.
Definitely. There's always an open invite. There's an open invite all year round.
All right.
As soon as we can travel across the world. As soon as we can travel across the world.
Yes.
Oh man, I miss it.
I miss it too.
You can hardly travel across town these days. So, so basically.
Okay, so I'm gonna add Dimah to. Here we go. Is there a way to do this? I think we'll have to do it this way. Panelists, stay with us. Dimah, can you be heard? Can you try talking?
It's a try.
Yes, we can hear you. Panelists, give me a thumbs up because I can still see you. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear Dimah. You can. Awesome. Okay, stick with us, panelists. I know people can't see you, but we can see Dimah. And Dimah, hello.
I think you can still do both.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think you should be
there.
able to,
there we go.
Like I showed you yesterday, remember?
Yes.
Go for the big screen and then have on the side.
I got it.
The participants. I mean, I can't see what's going on, but I hope this works.
Yes, it worked. I found the right click.
Okay, perfect.
Dimah, thank you for being here. Please, if you don't know by now, everyone, who this is the Mama of Africa Week 2020. Welcome, Dimah. Thank you for being a panelist in this session. We're talking about who are the authors of our stories, how we can own our own narrative. And I know you've done work. You're revolutionary. Every time I feel like that we have a new panel, you're like, oh yes, I've done blah, blah, blah. And you've done it and people know you for it. So please tell us about how we can be authors of our stories and the work you've done around that.
Thank you, Alexandra, and thank you for this great moderation for this panel and for co-creating this event with Beto. Again, thank you for joining us. Everyone, speakers, Mo, Rich, Cheick. I know Cheick left already, but I'm very grateful to everyone who came here to share how they are reclaiming their own narrative, to teach us how we can reclaim our own narrative, because really this is what it's all about. If we don't know our value, we can't expect anyone else to. So how do we re-emphasize, how do we connect, how do we remind ourselves before anyone else of this value, of our value? I want to thank our family, our extended family from around the world who are tuning in for their patience as well.
Yeah.
Here is how we reclaim this narrative. Here is how we reclaim who we are. And this fiasco with the internet madness for today is but one example of this. I am speaking to you through a Facebook Messenger call on Alexandra's laptop, which she is projecting on a screen share on StreamYard to be live streamed to you on Facebook and YouTube.
Yes, rock and roll.
Our truth
Snaps.
by understanding that impossible is nothing. Nothing, nothing. That nothing can stop us. Once we decide we are doing this. Internet gremlins can come however they may, however strongly they wish. We will come through. As long as we understand that within we have this power, as long as we give thanks that we have what it takes, and remember that at every and any stage of our lives, we have every single tool we need to help us progress to that next phase. That's all there is to it. Once we understand that truth, once we embody that truth, everything else is possible. I grew up as an Arab Muslim girl. African, yes, as well. But predominantly, the identity was predominantly Arab Muslim. And although my dad's an imam, I say Arab before I say Muslim, because even the Islam that I grew up with in schools and so on has been an Arabized version of Islam, where the essence of Islam itself took a back seat to the Arabized version, the culture version, the institutionalized version of this religion. And what I admire and love and respect so much about my father is that anytime I would go to him with a question about this religion, he says, I gave you the same book I used to learn. Go, read it, come to terms with it, and come back to me with questions and we can discuss it. So at a young age, I was taught to seek the knowledge myself and then come and discuss and then gain. Now, that's on one side, and having a mother who I think is still tuned in. I don't know. I know she was in earlier, and for that I also take a moment to say thank you to everyone who is celebrating Eid today, but still making time to tune in and connect with the rest of the family. It's really, truly appreciated. Now about my mother, the Queen, who as far as I'm concerned is the embodiment of Mama Africa. She's the one who really planted that seed that impossible is nothing. Really nothing. I'd come back from school and my mother would be hanging on a ladder, changing the light bulb, on the phone, making her next order for something. So, Mom, what are you doing? I am showing you that impossible is nothing. Also that you don't need men. Like, okay. Thank you, Mother. How do you take these two? How do you take these two sides, these two elements of me, and try and bring them together to reckon with who I am? Because everything I grew up seeing on TV in Egypt, I grew up in Egypt, of Nubians, what I originally am, is that they are either drivers, butlers, porters, in some sort of form, the help. Nowhere, and I mean nowhere, in what I'm seeing on these screens, am I told I come from greatness, I come from majesty, I come from the cradle of civilization. It wasn't actually until much, much later in my life that I understood that actually there are two different civilizations. There's the ancient Egyptian civilization and there's the Nubian civilization. Because how that story is told is that it's one in Egypt. How do we reclaim that back? How do we fix the fact that we have an entire generation of young Nubians who think that all we amount to is the help? Now, we have our grandparents and great-grandparents who, mind you, I also take a moment to say that July is Nubian Heritage Month. The 7th of July is Nubia Day, International Nubia Day. So today is the last day of Nubian Heritage Month, and I'm so grateful to be representing our truth as Nubians, and my truth personally as a Nubian who is trying to reclaim my truth, but also make sure that my kids, my grandkids, don't have to come along the way to find out, oh, hang on, we are so much more than what that screen is showing us, than what that book told us, than what that history teacher said. We reclaim our truth by connecting by those who lived it. And as far as Nubians go, those who lived it now refuse, they speak a language that is endangered right now. We don't know. The last generation to speak my language in my village, properly speak that language, is my father's generation. Our connect of documenting our oral histories, our connect of understanding what it means to be forced out of your land, to be given empty promises, to be told if you just make some leeway and compromise so that we can all prosper, we can all... There's no way to track it back. This is what we do in the Nubia Initiative. My sister and I co-founded this non-profit, non-political organization, and I have to emphasize non-political here because we are dealing with governments who see us only as a threat. And I think a lot of people will resonate, if not everyone in Africa Week 2020, will resonate with what it feels like to be seen as nothing more than a threat. If you are beating your drum, Beto, you are a threat. You are seen as a threat. Even though you're just sat there beating your drums. And here's another thing. Just, I think it was 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, some young Nubians went out with the drums that you saw on my wall in the launch of Africa Week 2020. They went out with drums. They were arrested and put in prison.
Yeah, he's taking out one of those exact drums right now. The ones you're talking about. He has one in his hand right now.
Oh, goodness. I wish I could see you. But I feel it. I feel it. I feel you. And this is what they can't fathom. This is what these governments can't fathom. But this is also why we have to say we're non-political. We're non-political and we're only here to save our heritage, to save this culture that they are actively working to carve us out of. They're happy to take the credit for this culture. They're happy to take the credit for the legacy our ancestors left behind. But if you dare say, that's our word, if you dare say, that's our history, if you dare say, hang on, that's not how that happened, you're a threat. And we need to be completely resolute in saying no. You don't get to claim that anymore. And the only way we do it, I don't want to say only because there's so many different ways to do it. The way we choose to do it at the Nubia Initiative is connecting, having an intergenerational conversation to preserve this language, to preserve our heritage, to preserve our truth, to remember our resilience, to remember revolution. Yes. Bámbula. Tomorrow, inshallah, we have a panel called Once Upon Our Language. And it's all about intergenerational efforts to revitalize a language. We go out as youth. We use this technology we have, this phone, this laptop, Skype, whatever it is we have, and we ask our grandparents to tell us a good memory, a bad memory, any memory, and to speak it in our language. To speak it in our language, then have someone translate it, that's fine. But to record it in our language, that we are banned from teaching in our schools.
Wow. Insane.
I was watching this documentary, not documentary, it was a presentation by Bishop Gloriann. It was talking about, you know, bending realities and how certain things, I can't remember who he was referencing, but if a language doesn't have a certain word, that whatever that is, that thing that is linked to that word is simply not acknowledged in that culture. For example, the Nubian language doesn't have the word thank you. Everything you are doing out of heart. You don't thank for that, it is natural. If we don't know that, if I didn't know that. Personally, I didn't know that. And I was like, what do you mean you don't have thanks? But you have to give thanks. Yeah, you give thanks through your actions. You give thanks through what you do. You give thanks by being there. You give thanks by showing up. You know? If I don't know my language and I don't understand that that part isn't out of my language, it's not there. That's a significant part of who we are and how we are as a people. It's just simply out. How do then my kids and my kids' kids and the next generations know that this is how we give thanks? We give thanks by showing up. If they don't even realize that we don't have the word in our language.
You know, I'm really liking this common thread through out of what all of you are saying, Dimah, Mo, Rich, and Beto, is that these stories, these narratives that we're either preserving, or what we're doing is we're preserving heritage, we're healing people who need to hear a new story, and we're helping people remember who they are. Yeah. Who you are, preservation, and healing. And this is a common theme in what every single one of you just said, what all of you have been sharing today. Yeah. Yes?
Yeah. And it goes with the very theme of Africa Week 2020. The central theme to Africa Week 2020 is Africanizing Africa Rising. To have the Africans tell our truth. We are rising, whether they like it or not, whether they're choosing to acknowledge it or not, whether they're burying their heads in the sand to not see it, especially our misleaders on the continent and in the diaspora, because to them, understanding that we are rising means reckoning with the fact that their time is coming, that this is a domino effect they cannot stop, right? Understanding that means acknowledging that Africa Rising is directly linked to Africanizing how Africa is rising. For us to get up and say, this is what we're doing.
Yes.
Whether you like it or not.
Mo, is this a theme where you are?
Sorry?
Is this a theme where you are?
Yeah, no, it's a big theme. It's about, I mean, African, like we've always been saying African solutions for African problems, but now more than ever, that is a real thing that ordinary citizens are taking to the streets. Like, we're taking that to heart. We're taking that seriously. This idea that someone or something or some organization from the West is coming to save Africa is just not happening. Mm-hmm. And we're coming to terms with the fact that no one is coming for Africa. And if they are coming for Africa, they're not coming for us. They're coming for minerals, they're coming for all sorts of other things, but they're not coming for the people, for the community, for the stories, for the authenticity, for the spirit. So no one's coming to save Africa, and that it's up to us. We have to fix whatever it is that we think is wrong with our communities, with our society, with our economy, with our laws. We have to reckon with ourselves. It is in our hands, and more now than ever before. Is that a common theme across the continent, particularly in South Africa? I mean, the amount of groups that you see, like the amount of civilian-led groups that you see, that are trying to mobilize. You're trying to mobilize to fight corruption. We're trying to mobilize to fight gender-based violence. We're trying to mobilize to fight racism. We're trying to mobilize ordinary citizens. And I personally, and I love what Dimah was saying about representation, but I personally believe, and it speaks to the point that I made in the beginning about micro impact and micro influence building to a macro change. I personally believe that any change anywhere is led by the people. It's led by ordinary Jane and John Does on the streets of life. That's where the revolution lives. That's where change lives. That's where the authenticity of storytelling is birthed. That's where it lives. So I'm very I'm very happy that Dimah has raised some of the stuff that she said, particularly the point on representation. We underestimate the power of the images we see in the media and on television, or the voices we hear in the news, on the radio. We underestimate just how much those images and that voice speaks to us. When you don't see enough people that look like you, you then believe that this world is not meant for you. Whatever that thing is, like, you don't believe, if you don't see enough people that look like you and that speak like you, being CEOs of global companies, you don't believe that that is something that is meant for you. It's a representation. I think it's the most underrated and the most not spoken about topic in this discussion of revolution and transformation, is the power of representation. And I'm sure, Rich, you could probably maybe speak to this, but when you grow up in an environment where all the successful families or the successful people that you're seeing, the people who can afford to live and to buy stuff, are people that are gang leaders in your community. You grow up with that imagery and that voice. You are more prone to want to join a gang, because in your vision, the only people that are able to provide and the only people that are protected and are successful are people that are in gangs.
Yeah.
They're not people that are going to school and spending their nights studying and cramming and staying off the streets and so forth. They're people in gangs.
Yeah.
So you're then conditioned to think that success is joining a gang. That's success. That is protection. That is affluence. It's joining a gang. It's no coincidence that when you grow up in that environment, you're going to end up, or you're more predisposed to being in that space. And it's the power of representation.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. Very true.
I wonder, Rich, were you, like, with working on the gangs on the streets here in the United States, in Portland, do you know if these youths have access to representation outside of sort of mainstream hip hop, where the stories are cash money, demoralizing women, and I'm talking about mainstream hip hop right now? Do they have stories? Do they have representation of who they really are that has to do with any kind of ancestry or heritage?
I mean, yeah, definitely. I think there's a ton of really dope, conscious artists out there who are spreading knowledge of self-love, and you think about Dead Prez, shout out to Stick and One and whatnot. They've been really great pioneers, and then you go back to BDP and Boogie Down and all those guys. I mean, there's in each community, you're always going to have the revolutionary artists and the people who are speaking empowerment and who are talking about uplifting each other, and they're talking about the red, the black, and the green, and they're really bringing that together. And then you're always going to have another side of it, which Mo was talking about as well, is the representation of what we're seeing is in the poverty and wanting to be able to get money and get dough. And you see the hustlers on the streets, and you see these guys who got the cars and they got the money. And you say, well, I'm not really receiving, or don't have these things. My shoes don't look good, so I feel like I need to have this so that I don't have to get talked about, and because these are the standards that our society gives to us. That's what we see. But there is in every single hood across America, there also is a faction of people who are out there and who are speaking consciousness and giving back to our youth and really giving back into their life. So yes, they do. And one of the things that the company that I work for does as well is in schooling. We're doing a ton of work with alternative schools, because some of the kids that we work with, they just simply can't. They don't function the same way as some of the other kids do in high school and whatnot. So we give them opportunity to go to these alternative schools. They can come learn in a more smaller environment, and we can kind of nurture them in whatever their learning capacity is to kind of help really get them to the next level educationally. Because education-wise is what we're really missing right now in our communities as well. Outside of just outside of the self-care and all the other things like that, we really got to get our kids educated so that they can start to get to the next level financially, just to change the narrative of who we are.
What's the name of that group? Are you allowed to share?
Yeah, so I work with a nonprofit called POIC in Portland, and they do a ton of different programs. Actually, the artist Lebron, who's going to be on with you as well, he works for a program on there with Cheick as well. He can kind of talk about what he does, but he also gives back to the community tremendously and has a similar story as mine as well. I'm super happy that you were able to connect with him, because he is he has a hell of a story to tell. So you're gonna enjoy that.
Awesome.
If I can just interject here on the matter of representation, if I can, because you both raised very, very important points. If you're not seeing all the different possibilities, and I want to draw your attention to, and maybe this is an organization you can work with. It's called Hood Organization, HOOD, and it's out of the Bronx. And actually, Hood is an acronym. And as much as they were encouraged, especially this young man who co-founded this organization with his brother and his friend, was encouraged to change the name, because Hood has can have a certain connotation. They refuse because they're trying to change what Hood means. The acronyms they escape me now. I want to say it's humanity, optimism, something in development, but please look it up. How that organization started was this young man preparing to go into college, and he's looking through the different careers in the book. And exactly what Mo was saying, he caught himself just flipping through the page of, I think it was a surgeon. And then he stopped and he's like, why did I just flip through this page? And he went back and he realized he's never seen a black surgeon. So he never thought he would be or could be. And that's when he decided he's going to study to be a surgeon. And that's when he decided he's going to start this organization with his brother and with his friend, so that other high school kids in their area can know you can do whatever it is you want to do. So they bring professionals, they bring black professionals from every field, from every discipline, to come and speak to these high school kids and tell them, yes, you can do it.
Yes.
You can do it, and this is how you can do it. They're on a panel, Mo, who's one of the founders, he was with us in the launch of Africa Week 2020. Please follow them on Instagram, find that panel. We can go back and pin it. I'll tag you to it, but if not, it's again Hood Organization, and it's so very important to just realize that it's a possibility. It's a possibility. You can do it if you want to. You don't have to. You don't have to follow that path. But if you want to, it's there.
There's option. We have options. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Different options. And opportunities that we're told, we're conditioned to believe are beyond our reach, or the other way. And for that, I think our parents, to some extent, have played a role in this, again, because they too have been conditioned, where they will tell us, no, stability means a 9-to-5 job. It means a specific job. It means you're either a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer or I still remember to this day, actually, my mom and I have this. I was like, Mom, I could have been a director living my life making films somewhere right now.
You would be such a great filmmaker. Oh my God.
Since I was 7, she's like, I see you as a diplomat. I see you as a diplomat. I see you as a diplomat. I grew up to be so far away from the diplomat. I am the least diplomatic person there is, I think, in my opinion. But there was a point that in my flashing and trying to come in and out through the panels earlier, I think it was Mo who said this revolution will be televised.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I give a really, really big ashe to that? And just say how we can, and it goes directly to how we reclaim this narrative. The revolution in Sudan that started in December, or really sparked and caught fire December 2018, was completely off the radar, was absolutely not being televised. It was so not being televised. I went and I sat outside the Sudanese embassy in Washington, D.C. to tell people our revolution is not being televised because X, Y, Z. That's actually how Alexandra and I connected. And I'm very grateful to Aida for connecting us, because this is what we had to do. We had to be our own television. We had to be our own broadcast network.
Yes.
We had to be our own
Yes.
radio. And once we did it as Sudanese, whether Sudanese on the ground or Sudanese in the diaspora, once we did it, once the self recognized, we were able to reach out to our family, and the family started recognizing.
Yes.
So our Eritrean brothers and sisters, our Ethiopian brothers and sisters, our Ghanaian brothers and sisters, our Kenyans, the Kenyans, when they went out outside their Supreme Court, and they ended up getting tear gas for calling for our rights. The Ghanaians marched to the presidential palace to say, you need to go to the African Union and say what they're doing in our name to help the Sudanese people. Because at the time, Egypt was the chair of the African Union, and Egypt was working and serving the interests of United Arab Emirates, of Saudi Arabia, of anything and anyone else but the Sudanese people, but the African youth who are on the streets. The South Africans, my sister, the South Africans held their own concert for Sudan.
And I want to add here, for those of you who are watching, that Dimah is saying what is happening in that region, right, in those regions, but what she's talking about can be applied wherever you are.
Yes.
Where Beto is
yeah.
in the Caribbean, right?
Yeah.
In Rich is interacting with the gangs of Portland. How do the lifting up and the sort of rebalancing of what's happened with the youth on the streets in Portland, how can Portland speak for Los Angeles, speak for Oakland, speak for Seattle, right? These are, how can we connect as a family and speak for each other and lift each other up?
There's another how here that I would like us to address, and I would love your wisdom, your guidance, your insights, your experience in how we can make that happen. Because as much as the revolution did eventually get televised in Sudan, it's now getting shut down. So right now, people think the revolution is done. We have a civilian government, which we do not. And Darfur is still burning. And I was telling Alexandra this, in the first Africa Week 2020, in the launch, Beto said with full passion that I felt it in every single cell in my being when he said, it hasn't stopped shaking in Puerto Rico. It hasn't. And it hasn't stopped burning in Darfur. But because they were able to take what we did as far as televising our revolution, and then dividing, again, finding a way to wiggle their way in, now everyone is forgetting what's happening in Darfur. No one's looking at what's happening in Darfur. It's still burning. How do we counteract these attempts? How do we remind ourselves that once we say this is a revolution, that the revolution keeps going? It doesn't stop.
Yeah.
How do we do it?
How do we do it, Mo and Rich and Beto?
Right
How do we do it?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I think that one of the things that however bad COVID has been, I think it's also been something that's helped really awaken our minds. It's really I think a lot of people were really asleep to a lot of things that were happening, and finally the world is now listening to a struggle that we're all having, and it's a universal one that we're all seeing. And so I'm really hopeful and that our minds keep awakening, and I'm seeing our people rise up, and I'm seeing our people start to realize that we do need to come together, and no matter where we're at, so far as on the universal struggle, to really uplift each other and start rising. We had a group of Black men recently that came to the park yesterday as a call to response, and we had about 150 of us that showed up to the park, and we just got into factions or groups and talked about our particular strengths and things that we could do to go into our communities and help out. Some of them were some of the guys that were good at the intervention level went over there. Some of the people who were doing the educational pieces, they were good at that, they went over there, and we all got our strengths together and took that and went into the community to do what we knew we could do to help out in our personal strengths. Another thing was, just really mobilizing within our communities. If that means, 150, 200 of us are going to stand out on the corner of a really hot spot in Portland, just so that those youth could see us, or so that we could be heard and seen, and so that we could, stop that violence that could potentially happen in that area on that day. Now, I know we're talking a broader thing here, but I think that this is this what I'm saying can also be applied on a grander scale as well. So,
yes. Yeah, you said something about situations, about how the COVID situation opened everybody's eyes to what is actually going on, to some truths. Here in Puerto Rico, we have always been, as I mentioned before, that we have been a colony since the time of our native Taino Indians. When the Spaniards came, we've been a colony. Then the United States of America invaded Puerto Rico. It wasn't like a friendly thing. They invaded Puerto Rico, bombed, and actually won the war. And since then, we've been a colony of the United States. So we're talking again about representation and about what is represented in like TVs, magazines, and of what it is to be a Puerto Rican. Well, I got several things to say about that. One of them is that the fact that, and to touch on what Dimah said before too, the fact that we still speak Spanish is a huge act of resistance, and is a revolutionary act, because they have, since 1898, they've been trying to put English as the language, in Puerto Rico. So the fact that we still speak Spanish is revolutionary. So to move further, we've been living with these things. They oh no, you're good. We're taking care of you. You're fine, no problem. And then the hurricanes came, the last two hurricanes. Everybody talks about Maria, but before Maria we had Irma. It was pretty destructive. So I live in the city. I live in the city in San Juan, and I was 5 months with no electricity, with no power. That's me. There's people still with no power. Still, that's 3 years ago or something like that. That is absolutely crazy. So what happened especially after Maria, was that everything was revealed. All the atrocities done by the government were definitely revealed. After 4,645 deaths from the hurricane, from people not being able to get access to food, to get access to water, get access to medicine, to hospitals, and so forth. Meanwhile, all these supplies were here. We had the supplies coming, but the government kept them because of political purposes. They didn't hand them in, because if they did, they would lose their power. So, actually, people dying from hunger and thirst, and there was food and there was water rotting in in what do you call it, warehouses. So the people who helped the people, to go back to what Sister Mo was saying, the people who actually helped the people was the people. It wasn't the government. It was the communities. It was us helping us, each other. The people who brought food to the most needed people was not the government, was us, was ourselves. Since then, it has been a non-stop battle with natural disasters mixed in with, complete government. What do you call it? What's the word? I'm missing the word. Corruption with complete government corruption, plus natural disasters, plus all of a sudden it started shaking, and it hasn't stopped shaking yet. This morning I got a text from Master Beto Torrens in the south. He has no power, no water, and it's shaking. So he has, he's living with all this stuff, with the storm and the earthquakes at the same time. So it is still doing that, and he is living that truth, but he is moving forward to help other people. He has no water, he has no electric power, but he is taking time to actually move with brothers and sisters to help out the more needed situations. So yes, that is the revolution. That is what Sister Mo is saying, that the revolution has to be micro to management. We can't expect governments that hate us and that are corrupt and that are killing us and that want us separated to help us. We can't expect that. There's no jobs, there's no food, people are starving, all this stuff. And the other morning I was woken up at 9 o'clock by a political rally by the person who's the governor of Puerto Rico right now, with these huge trucks with music and all these cars that she just bought brand new. It's like, what are you doing? People are starving. People are homeless because of the earthquakes. Those people that are homeless because of the earthquakes now have to deal with hurricanes. It's hurricane season. It already started. We got massive floods yesterday and today, and like people losing the little they had left after the hurricanes, after the earthquakes. And these people are doing, spending all their money on political stuff so they can be in power again and keep stealing and keep the genocide going on. So yeah, all these stories that we're telling is the same story. It's the same story throughout. Some are harsher than other ones. At least Sister Dimah, she can't do her home language. I get to do that, so I gotta embrace that and be grateful that I can speak Spanish, that I can keep this, even though Spanish is still a colonial language.
Right.
But the Spanish that I speak is the Caribbean Spanish, which is blended with African languages. It's blended with native Arawak and Indian languages. So it's our real language right now. And yeah, you were thinking.
Our own form of resilience. Beto, I think what you said and what Mo was saying connect to something that is missing from the conversation. I find normally missing in this conversation, because Mo said African solutions for African problems. you said we must find a way to exist beyond our government's wills, because we have stuff that is coming in that is stopped by the porters, and in this case, these porters are a corrupt government. We need to make differentiation, because, and I get into this all the time, especially with my African brothers and sisters, I mean the continental African brothers and sisters, as well as some of the very passionate Pan-Africans who don't find me as critical as they would like of Europeans or of North Americans, not even North Americans, of United States of America, of whichever, China, when they see me not as critical of them as I am of our own misleaders, they don't understand it. They say, you know, you seem to be a bit harsher on the African leaders. They're not leaders. For me, they are misleaders, because they are misleading us. They are misguiding us. They are bleeding us dry.
Yes.
Now, I am tougher on our people, because I expect nothing from the Europeans or the Americans or the Chinese or anyone else. I don't expect the oppressor to give me my freedom.
True.
Yeah.
But by the same token, we need to be very clear when we say African solutions to African problems. We have Africans who are selling us, who are selling our land. You're saying you had all this food that is rotting in warehouses. Do you know that Sudan, which, by the way, the word Sudan, for those who don't know, the word Sudan means the land of the blacks. And this is a huge part of why our revolution was not televised by the mainstream media. Because if it goes out that the land of the blacks is rising. Now, in Sudan is known as the bread basket. For the longest time, it's been known as the bread basket of the Arab world. And don't ask me why it's the bread basket of the Arab world and not the bread basket of Africa. But for a country to be known as the bread basket and have its people starving, have its people standing in line for hours upon hours upon hours to get bread, while you are selling the wheat over to our northern neighbor in Egypt so they can make cake, where you are smuggling our cattle to Egypt and we are starving, where you have $25 million worth of gold smuggled daily out of the country, and then you say we're starving. And if you look at these so-called leaders, they look and speak like us. So when we say African solutions to African problems, there needs to be a shift. We need to
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
That phrase.
It's like, I fully agree with you. Because to some extent, our people are the problem. Our leaders are fundamentally the problem. That's what you're trying to get at. That's actually what you're trying to say. That it's a nice phrase, but
said it loud and clear.
Yeah, right. Like it's a nice phrase and it's catchy and whatnot. But fundamentally, we're equally as problematic, because we're like we are liable as well for the problems that we have in our continent. I fully and I passionately agree. And there's one thing, there's one thing that COVID-19 has proved to me, that governments have more power than they've been letting on. Because all along, governments have been saying that no, particularly in an African context, and I'll speak at least as a South African, all along governments have been saying no, big corporate is the one, they've got the money, we've got corporates that are the size of countries' GDPs, so we don't have as much bargaining power when they come to us and they want to use the labor, or they want land, or they want to build, because we need foreign investment, we need this, we need the infrastructural development, we need that. But one thing COVID-19 proved to me is that government actually has the power to make corporate bend or yield to its will, should they choose to. Because in South Africa, we went on an economic lockdown overnight. And we've been in lockdown since like end of March? We went on a lockdown because of COVID-19 overnight. And subsequent to the lockdown, now that it's time to open the economy, the government has introduced what they're calling a phased and a staged approach of opening the economy, which means we go from stages of lockdown. So we were The highest lockdown is stage 5, which is a total lockdown. Everybody's indoors. Only essential workers can leave their houses. And then you go from stage 5 to stage 4, which is a bit more lenient, then stage 3, then 2, then 1. We're currently in stage 3. But stage 3 means that there's no liquor, there's no tobacco. So there's still parts of the economy that are completely closed. The important thing to note here is that we haven't had any tobacco items being sold since the end of March, and liquor as well. We opened up for liquor for a couple of weeks, but we had to close again because there were too many liquor-related incidents that were putting some pressure on the hospital system. But that's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is that liquor and tobacco are two of one of the most powerful industries in the world. They are what we call recession-proof, in fact. In fact, they tend to boom when recessions, when we're going through economic recessions, because people want to smoke and drink. But the point I'm making is that if you as a government can continue over months to shut down what we have known as such powerful industries, surely we must wake up and see that actually, Yazin, our governments do actually have the power to make big investment and foreign investment bend to the will of the people if they wanted to serve the will of the people. Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at right now, as a citizen, and it's the kind of the discussions I'm having with people. I'm just like, but actually, so it's true. If you wanted to, you could actually. The trick is you're not incentivized to make global economics work for us. You're incentivized to continue to make it to work for the West. Let's be let's just be real. And if that is the case, and I mean, I would say if you look at the evidence would tell you that's the case. No one is admitting it, but the evidence would prove that is what is going on right now. Then by all means necessary, that way of leadership, it's got to go. By all means necessary, it's got to go. And I think, Dimah, to your point, I think one of the most important things in the movement, or when we talk about the revolution being televised and how do we actually get the revolution to be televised, I think independence is important. I think as people, as the people who want to give birth to a revolution and lead it, we need to take care of our independence.
Yeah.
And ensure that we are objective at all times. We need to be consistent. Time and time again, you see movements losing their consistency and kind of losing their message along the way as they get bigger and bigger. We need to be wary of fake news because we live in a time where the media itself is questionable and cannot always be trusted because people are using fake news and they're using the media and social media to make us think and feel certain things. So we need to be wary of fake news as well. I believe collaboration is always better than competition. So I think we need to collaborate as far as possible. And I was saying to a friend of mine, I was saying that, right now in South Africa, corruption is a big thing, particularly with COVID-19 and everything that's going on and, money and the system is being looted and money's not getting to the people who need it. So if you talk to any South African, corruption is something that will come up. Like it comes up in almost any conversation you're having right now. So corruption is a big thing. And I was saying to one of my friends, I was like, I foresee that if this continues and if people really get passionate about this thing and people actually hit a ceiling where as ordinary citizens who are paying tax, but that tax is not serving you at all. It's just serving, corrupt officials. Eventually the pressure is going to get to a point where the enemy of my enemy is my friend, where the racists and the black people are going to band together because corruption must fall. The enemy is corruption. We'll deal with the racism after. But the enemy is corruption right now. And I don't want to, sound like I'm advocating for that kind of world. But what I'm saying is that when the enemy is big enough and we can all agree that this is the enemy, collaboration then becomes better than competition. And then, you can kind of see some movements coming along that can actually bring sustainable change. So yeah, I think I said a mouthful, but
I would love to add here, we're almost at the end of our time, so I want to add here. Just we do have a question, and this person's been waiting so patiently for this question. So I want to add something here. We'll take this question, and then we'll talk about our tradition here at Africa Week, which is the pledges. What are we pledging to do in this conversation? And also I want to encourage, this conversation could really go on. It could go on and go on. So I would like to encourage all the panelists to stay in touch with each other, and anyone who's watching to reach out and stay in touch with these conversations, because here at Africa, we know that we have what each other needs. And so we might come back and continue this conversation with these same panelists and others. Some of our conversations in our event tomorrow are the continuations of conversations like these. You can feel it. This is juicy. We need to be having these conversations. This is how we build the bridges. This is how we make change like this. And this could keep going on. So please, remember to keep checking in, and I encourage panelists to keep in touch with each other so that we can continue this conversation. One thing I want to say is to Dimah's point and to Mo's point, Dimah was asking, how do we keep it going? Right? How do we keep it going? You know, Darfur is still burning. Puerto Rico is still shaking. And Mo is talking about how the government has phases of, you know, how they phased these shutdowns, how they phased the economic control for their favor. And one thing that I want to bring to light is that this is what war looks like, right? We are in a war, a psychological and spiritual war, and we have regimes, we have controlling forces that are very well practiced in how to control and manipulate. And I think that when we're in a war, it is worth studying how the enemy does the thing that they do. And so when we're planning our revolutions, and when we're planning how we are going to change what is happening, one thing that we can learn from those regimes and those controlling forces is how to phase our resistances and our revolutions from the very beginning. This is what we're doing, everyone. Stay tuned, because then it's going to be this. Stay tuned, because then it's going to be
one
this.
Thing, Alexandra, you said something very, very important. We
Yeah.
are at war, yes. And it's not just with all of these things and all of these elements and all of these people. Most importantly, in my opinion, we are at war with the versions of ourselves we have been told we are. That is the struggle. That is the biggest war, is that we have grown up being conditioned to believe we are one thing. And upon stepping into this awakening of who we actually are, because everything around us is reminding us, it is time. And once we eventually wake up and recognize, hang on, this is who we actually are, because we've reclaimed our truth, because we became our own storytellers, because we have owned that narrative, that bit of us that has been us until that waking up point is still there and is still trying to get back on stage. And so every time you take a moment to breathe, like, okay, I've gone this far, and you take a moment to breathe, that version of ourselves will try coming back up. And that's the war we have to be most conscious about.
Yes.
Because if we stop and breathe for a second, it'll come back up. And
yeah, we have to be like the waves. Okay, so here's a question. We'll have one person sort of address this question briefly, and then we'll wrap up with some pledges here. This question is from Joey Zaza. Thank you, Joey, for waiting so patiently. And this question came from, we were talking about education. Education is such a broad stroke. What exact subject should be adjusted in order to amplify the cognitive experience in students? I'll just have like one person sort of answer that if anybody is motivated. Okay, I'll take it, because I have I'll take it. And that is for me personally, one thing especially here, and I think this is probably Dimah will definitely agree with this, and I know Beto, I think everybody, okay, and that is, people need to know who they really are. They need to know who their histories, even if they're having trouble with math or science, which seemingly doesn't have to do with the history. When you know who you really are, you have confidence and esteem. People need to know where they came from, who they are, the resilience of their people. They need to know their heritage. They need to know that they're more than what they see that they are, right? We've been talking about they need to know more than what they've been told they are. When they have, that's what I personally would add into education. When people know who they are and they have that esteem and confidence, then all else starts to fall into place. So yes, that also helps with the subjects like math and science and stuff like that. Yeah.
I agree.
If I can add, and this is something that's already starting to be added, and we're seeing it in some of the elementary and middle schools, is to learn how to be quiet and listen within.
Yes.
We
Yes.
are now seeing meditation classes being introduced as an official part of the curriculum, where kids are being taught to sit quietly and just monitor what's going through their mind, just feel what's within. That's something we simply have not been taught. Personally, I have not been taught this. And when I was introduced to it as an adult, I struggled quite a bit. I was like, what do you mean, sit quietly and just watch the thoughts flow? Like, it was so ludicrous to me. That, for me, that is a part, because once we do, we see who we are.
Yes. Yes. We have a bright future, everyone.
Yes.
I see it, I believe it. And, you know, if those of you also believe that, let us know in the comments. Okay, so now as we end up, and we'll try to go through briefly here. We have about 7-8 minutes left. Pledges in the tradition of Africa Week 2020. What do we pledge to do? What can be followed up on? It could be something that you already have plans to do, and you're saying out loud, adding power to what it is that you already have going on, and letting people know, and they can look out for that if they're following your work. It could be something that you realize from this panel right now, like that you want to start pledging to do. What is a pledge that you want to take from this panel out into the world and hold yourself accountable to it? Or, you know, when Dimah and I contact you and say, how's this thing going? We hold you accountable to it later. Because you're family now. Okay. So let's start with Mo. What's a pledge you're taking from this panel?
So I've officially began work on my new project, my new let me call it my new album that I'm hoping to be able to release in 2021. That I want actually to be a visual album. So my pledge is to continue working on that, but that through that kind of work, and particularly that album and continuing that work, I want to televise the revolution.
Mo is televising the revolution. Everybody write it down. Dimah.
So in keeping with the theme, I'll televise the revolution.
Yeah, okay. So Mo is going to be televising the revolution. Everyone, I suggest if you can find her, you'll find her links on our Facebook page. Go follow her and help her televise the revolution. I will be, for sure. Thank you so much, Mo. Rich, your pledge from this panel.
My pledge is to continue just being a great father to my sons. I'm going to continue to create music that is uplifting and that is real and authentic to myself. I'm going to also pledge to give back to my community and to continue to share my experiences and my failures and my success to young people who need to hear it and understand that, and who need that guidance. So that's my pledge.
Awesome. So Rich, are we writing it down, everyone? Rich
Hunter Music. If you want to find it out there, my music, yes. Rich Hunter Music. If you just Google that, then you can find it on iTunes and all the other platforms that are out there, and videos will pop up. There's a song called "I'm a Man" that's really, really prevalent in this time that I think you should check out. There's a song called Smile Again too, that I think is really uplifting, and I hope that brightens your day if you go and Google that as well.
Yes, I love. WhatsApp me those 2 links, and I'll post them in the thing today in our Africa Week page today, and then people can go check that out. So your pledge is you're going to continue to bring this to your fathering of your 3 babies, and also telling the stories. I think something really important you just said, telling your stories to these youth that you're helping, but also your failures. And I think it's very important. That is actually a very radical act. It is against the system that we're in, is to share our failures and be letting people know that we actually have those. So yes. Okay, so we'll go to Dimah. Dimah, you have so many pledges.
Well, I continue building on the pledge that started all of this, which is yielding the platform. So one of the pledges we've made as the Nubia Initiative is helping, providing or co-creating a platform that allows for others to join in and share their truth, share their narratives, tell us what's happening in their part of the world or their respective communities. We're rolling out a form to be filled in for people who have an idea for a program or have an idea for a show, to continue showing us how they are resilient in their own being, in whatever discipline, whatever part of the world, and whatever community they are. An extra pledge out of this panel specifically, since there is a visual album coming out, I would like to put a challenge on the table to Mo to have one of these songs be with artists strictly from Africa Week 2020. Send us a call that we can put out for artists from within our Africa Week 2020 family.
Okay.
We'll create this with you, whether in lyrics or in beats. I know when we asked for Beto to give us some drums and some tracks for the intermissions, Alexandra and I were jumping up and down when the tracks were sent through to us. And really, distance was not an issue. The fact that he wasn't physically present with us was not an issue. Nothing is an issue because impossible is nothing. So I would like for you to consider maybe extending an invitation for one track from this revolution will be televised to be in collaboration with the Africa Week 2020. I call you all artifists, I hope you know. We have the panel tomorrow, our morning panel tomorrow is Music Resilience Revolution, or Music Between Resilience and Revolution. And the hashtag is I am artifist, as in art, I fist. Please,
okay. No, definitely.
Can connect you with them. That will be my pledge. I will get you these artists from every corner of the continent and the diaspora.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Thank you, Dimah. Beto.
Well, to me, my pledge is my daily pledge. My daily pledge is to keep doing research, keep learning more about these bridges that we're building and about similarities and differences that make us a whole, and teaching that. My pledge is not to keep anything for myself, basically. I don't want to. I know I will die someday because I'm a human, but I don't want to take anything with me. I want to leave everything for the people to be uplifted and know themselves and know where they come from. So education, yes, that's my pledge.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you all for. Oh, there's the right button. I appreciate you all for being with us in the panel. Again, everyone in this panel, you can find on our Africa Week 2020 page. If you scroll up and down, we're gonna have other links to post of them. And if you come to our archive, you'll see these videos. You can see these videos again. Everyone here has brought such value to Africa Week 2020. We are so blessed to have you. I mean, it almost doesn't even hit me fully until like days later. I'm like, oh my God, like I am now changed because of, what Mo said in that panel, or this answer that Rich gave. It's so good. We've had amazing comments coming through. We do have to move on, but please come back and check, panelists, please come back and check the feed and see these comments. We have a commitment here from somebody named Joey Zaza, who's like, I'm going to be here as long as possible, so get used to me. Dimah, it looks like we have a new family member. Welcome to the family.
Zaza is my friend from Aguadilla.
Okay.
I'm happy that he's with us.
All right. Thank you. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for saying yes, panelists. Thank you for being here. We love you, and we mean that from every part of our being. That's it. Everybody say goodbye.
Bye. Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone.